Hi, my name is John Smith. Welcome to Kingdom Real. Looking forward to, in this episode, picking up for part 2 of an amazing episode we just concluded with my friend, CJ Dolehanty, who reminds me a lot of Jesus.
I don't like you saying that.
But it's true, and we tell the truth on this program. So, we're at a pretty emotional point.
Yes.
Talking about your friend.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one thing that I believe is really important is honoring the name of a friend who's gone on. What is your friend's name?
His name was Ted.
Ted.
Yep.
That makes him a little bit more real for me.
Okay.
So, Ted. So that was a pretty traumatic time on top of some of your other trauma. In the first episode, we talked a little bit about Dad.
Mm-hmm.
We hadn't said anything about Mom yet. So Ted, right at the end.
Yep.
So the phone call with Mom.
Yes.
What was relationship with Mom like at home?
Well, I didn't have any idea really. I wasn't particularly focused on their relationship, my parents, toward each other. I mean, I was to the extent of, I witnessed a lot of hard times between them. But because I was so, oh, poor me, my life is so hard, So, that was mostly my focus. And truly, she was very much like my dad. I very much felt tag teamed.
So there was no relief,
no
escape.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So what happens after Ted dies? You kind of force your parents to take you to the funeral.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Did they go with you or did you go alone?
They took me.
Okay.
And I have to say, wow, I walked into the funeral home, and there waiting for me were all of his brothers and his mother. And I walked in, and they literally just surrounded me. And his mother said, "You are the last one of his friends that we've been waiting for, because we knew we'd have to get you through this." Wow. And I'd give anything to be able to describe what that was like.
Yeah.
It was just phenomenal.
You were valued?
Yeah, I don't know that I ever felt that loved at that point. It was, yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in the midst of her grief...
Yes.
Of losing her son.
Yes, her baby boy. Yes.
She breathed life into you.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
My goodness. That was a gift.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Then the only part of your friend dying like that is the next day he's still not there.
Yeah.
The next day he's still not there.
Yeah.
The next day he's still not there.
Yes.
What was that like for you?
It was worse than anything I could have possibly experienced up to that point. And my college roommate, bless her heart, sat every single night while I cried for about 2 years. Every single night. I just did not know what to do. Yeah. It was probably about the 2-year mark when I could even talk about it without just dissolving into tears. But now I have all of that to remember. And I do. And it's wonderful. Oh, it is joyous. The smallest things, playing video games, being in a hammock in his room, chatting, anything, it's wonderful to spend time remembering. Yeah.
That's a pretty common word in the Bible.
Yes.
Remember. I think sometimes in our world people think, well, you need to forget painful things. Mm-hmm. You need to just, move on and, get back to work or whatever. Guys, no, remember.
Yes.
And so those memories that were initially maybe even painful
yes,
became treasured messages of hope.
Yes.
They would bring a smile to your face, joy to your heart, laughter. Wow, that's awesome. Good job.
Yeah. But you're right. It wasn't joyous at first and for some years. Yeah. And that is one thing that God has really given me, is that ability to just remember and not relive the hardness that it went away, because life is fleeting. Life is gone like that. And he doesn't want us to focus on loss. He came here so that we're never going to lose. We're all eternal beings. We're going to be around for eternity. And he wants that to be with him and full of hope and joy and happiness. Exactly. And yes. And that is life-saving knowledge.
It is. So tell me a little bit more about that journey then. So you're grieving, you're crying every night for 2 years. God gave you a saint for a roommate.
Yes, he really did.
Who was right with you through all of this. That's absolutely incredibly wonderful.
Yeah.
What happens in your life after that?
Well, so I will say that all of my growing up years, all I wanted was to get rid of this pain and the bad feelings that I had felt. And anyone I knew outside of my friends, because I kind of would talk about it with my family members or really anyone, I just couldn't handle. I didn't know how to get rid of this pain and anger. And people would just say things like, well, just let it go. You just got to let it go. And I will say that no one in this world ever wanted to just let anything go more than I did. And if I would just say, how do I do that? How do I do? You just do. So I couldn't. And so I still had this filter. I had all this hard pain and all those bad feelings, mostly about myself. And I was the loudest person saying, I will never be like my parents, and I will never. And I actually found myself in a marriage to someone who is in so many ways very identical to my father.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
you didn't see that before you married him?
I did not. It's so easy now, to look back and see all of the signs that I just ignored, excused, because I was completely desperate for a man to love me. I wanted to be part of a family. And where I came from, the way that my mind worked growing up is when you marry someone, then you're part of each other's family.
Right.
So all I wanted was to marry someone who loved me and to be part of a family who loved me. And it didn't work out that way.
What did you experience?
Everything that I grew up with, but in a much more personal way, because this was a person who, I had been completely vulnerable with, and had not been vulnerable with any male, and truly shown who I was to that person before him. And so having decided that no one was ever going to treat me like I had been treated, instead of exiting the relationship, or dealing with it in any healthy manner whatsoever, because I didn't even know what that meant. I just gave back everything I got. And it was terrible. It just made me hate myself more.
Wow.
Yeah. However, again, God just, He saves us in so many ways, so many different ways.
He does.
So many different ways. And He gave me 3 beautiful children.
Oh, wow.
And they, in any way I could say, they truly saved my life. They did.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. To this day, they make my life worth living. Yeah. Yep.
Well, that's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
How long did you stay in that relationship?
It's funny because it was only a total of 10 years. And it just seemed like so much more. And looking back, it just feels like so much more. But yeah. Yep.
But you have 3 amazing kids out of that relationship.
Yes.
Wow.
And I have to say, again, I was that I will never. And you do what you know. Unfortunately, everybody doesn't, but I did a lot, and I was very hard on my children because, to me, strictness was everything. That's what I learned. And so I was very much, my kids are here and I'm going to protect them. And if they step out of line, it's my job, and yeah. So I wasn't an easy mom. I'm sad to say.
Okay.
I always said to my children, I understand that this is hard and I am hard on you. But, and I'm sure a lot of kids hear this. I didn't, but I'm sure a lot of kids hear that, but you have it so much easier than I did. Well, I will tell you that, and so I would certainly say that to them, like, that matters, it's terrible. But, one of my daughters has 2 children, and she is the chain breaker.
Wow. Tell me about that.
That young lady has done and does do everything she possibly can to be the best mother that any child ever had. She takes classes, parenting classes. She educates herself. She is purposeful about every single thing that she does with those children. Every child should have a mother like my daughter.
Wow.
And if that is not a vision of salvation, I don't know what is. You know, she came from some tough stuff, and she did not and does not pass that on.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a cool story.
Yeah. Yep.
Somebody's got to come along and break that chain.
Yes. Well, and, you know, I will say that, as I said, when it was actually the man I had married that took me to that church where I was able to learn what it meant to receive Jesus as my Lord and Savior.
Okay.
Yes. And because of that, I stayed in that church for 11 years. And so I brought my children up in that. Okay. And so for all of the horrible mistakes I made, God was so faithful in allowing me to, and their grandparents were very supportive as well.
Okay.
They were raised in the church, you know, they learned about Jesus always, and that to me is the biggest gift anyone could ever have. And so I'm so grateful because, again, you know, I was not the model of what a mother should be in so many ways. But I will tell you, again, God was there, and he held those children and still does, you know, and just another example. Yeah.
His grace is sufficient.
So, I was just going to say, he's so gracious.
He
yes.
is. Yeah.
Yes.
And there's a message of hope in there.
Yes. Yes.
You don't have to be a perfect parent for your kids to know Jesus.
That's right.
And have a really good life.
That's absolutely right. Yep. Fortunately, I will say that now, I could not possibly feel more support and adoration and just mushy gushy mom love toward my children, and it is so wonderful because I can express that.
Yeah,
you know,
awesome.
Yeah, I get to be that now, and it's hard because you can't go back. You know,
you can't go back, but you sure can make an impact now.
I'm trying.
And one thing about children, in many cases, they love you in spite of all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're pretty willing to forgive usually. And you never outgrow your need and desire for a parent. So you get to parent them in their later years more the way you wanted to. That's huge. That's so important.
It is an honor.
Yeah.
It truly is. They are 3 amazing human beings, and just knowing them and being in their life in any way is more of an honor than anyone could ever dream of.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
And I bet you're an awesome grandma.
Oh. It's kind of my favorite thing.
Yeah, it's pretty fun, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
How old are your grandchildren now?
Almost 1 and almost 4.
Oh, how fun.
Yes.
Oh, those are great ages.
They really are.
Yep. And
Yep.
they're going to grow up really, really fast.
They do. They do.
They do. So how did... A question just comes to mind in terms of as you were young, you just wanted to know the rules.
Yes.
And even when you got the Bible, I just wanted to know the rules.
Yes.
And there's a place for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But how did you transition? You've talked more now about the relationship with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that work out in your life story from where that started to where it is now?
I just never understood how to get rid of all of the feelings up toward myself, and anger at so many things, and just in general. I mean, it was just such a part of me. So I actually spent up until, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, just seriously, I didn't on purpose do it, but I just could not stop thumbing my nose at those ghosts of all that unkindness and bullying. And because I just went from one bully to the next and associated myself with another one, and I just, it was just a parade of, looking back, it was just self-abuse. I just kept aligning myself with people who just were never going to be good to me, and they just perpetuated what I felt about myself.
Sure, yeah.
So I finally was fortunate enough to just get away from anyone and just be with myself. And so this is June. So this past December, I was actually having a conversation with a lady that I work for. And mind you, I would never speak personally to that degree about those personal feelings to anyone I didn't know, let alone someone I report to. I mean, that's a very hierarchical, I don't know how to say that, situation.
It's riskier.
Yes. So we were talking one day, and it was just a daily check-in. And she was talking, and I could not concentrate on her words because all I could feel was, I can't handle this for one more moment. I can't live one more moment who I am. So I stopped her, and she was talking. This is my boss. And she was talking, and I said, yeah, I got to stop you. I got to interrupt you. And I barely knew her. We'd not worked together long. And she said, okay. And I said, I'm going to tell you, I believe that our opinion of God is absolutely formed when we're children by who our Father is. He is our model. And she said, yes. And I said, well, mine was not okay. And I am the most worthless human being you could possibly know, and I cannot survive another day of it. And she said, all right, we're going to pray right now. And she prayed over me, and God spoke life through her to me that if anyone had said it any other time in my life, I would have not even listened to it. And he just hit me right between the eyes. And she spoke to that, and God reached in and took away every bit of that anger and that rage like that. He literally delivered me from, I'm in my 50s, And he delivered me from it, that entire life of pain. And I will never be the same.
Wow.
I would never have believed it possible. He loves me that much. He loves me. He loves everyone. That's how much. I know it's so repetitive and redundant, but if he can do that, if he can show me he loves me and he will deliver me, there's no one he won't save and deliver.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Praise the Lord for that.
Yes. Every day.
Every day. So, well, we have about 2 minutes left. I think this would be a wonderfully beautiful time for you to just give a message of hope. Somebody might be listening today in just a really bad situation. So just from your heart, just share a
I
brief
feel
message
right
of hope.
now, I know it sounds silly, but I can just feel pain that people go through. And I know how hard it is. And I know how desperately people just want to be loved and know that they're lovable. And they are. God created us. Jesus came to this earth on purpose because he loves you. Every single person that God created so much that he took all of your sin on himself so that you could be forgiven, because through him, through a personal relationship with him, you can be forgiven forever and be with God in his heaven someday.
And that's the truth.
Yes, it is. And I will tell it from the highest mountain gladly.
Well, that's a message of hope
Yes.
for me, for you, and for everyone God created in his image. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
My pleasure. My name is John Smith. You've been watching and listening to Kingdom Real. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. Please consider sharing it with your friends. Can't wait to see you next time. Jesus loves you, and we do too. So long.